I learned something ugly the summer my HOA tried to fine me for a lake they didn't own. People will call theft community stewardship if you print it on nice paper and say it with a calm voice. The first time Karen showed up at my gate with a clipboard and a smile, I almost laughed. Then I realized she expected me to hand over control of my land without a fight, and that's when the whole thing stopped being funny. My name's Wade Briggs, and the ranch had belonged to my family long before Ridgewood Estates existed as a polished sign at the end of a subdivision road. 3,000 acres of pasture pine limestone, one old cedar house above the southern edge of the lake. And that lake itself, not some decorative pond for kayaks and HOA newsletters, but a real working impoundment my family had filed, surveyed, maintained, and paid taxes on for decades. My uncle used to tell me the land doesn't care who talks loudest, it remembers who did the paperwork. The road-in hadn't changed in 30 years. Same gravel, same pines leaning, and same final stretch where I dropped the truck into 4-low out of habit. The house still stood where it always had, roof-faded porch rail, sagging cedar siding turned silver with age, and the lake wide, flat, quiet, catching the sky when the light hit it. Right looked exactly like it had when I was a kid following my uncle around. Inside the house, nothing had moved much since the funeral. The recliner still faced the picture window. The old fireproof box still sat on the closet shelf, blackened at one corner from a chimney spark years ago. Inside were the records, deed copies, water logs, survey maps, tax papers. One document mattered more than the rest. It was old, stamped, plain and deadly clear, exclusive impoundment and surface usage rights. Parcel 731A. So when the first letter from Ridgewood showed up, cream paper, fake elegant crest, careful little legal-sounding language, I knew exactly what bothered me. It didn't ask, it announced. As part of Ridgewood Estates' Community Resource Compliance Protocol, the HOA would begin oversight of the lake and related water features. No statute, no easement, no explanation, just a tone that assumed the question had already been settled somewhere above my head. I didn't call Karen, I went to the county annex. The clerk pulled Ridgewood's charter and boundary filings from a dusty records crate. Ridgewood had been plotted in 1991, less than 400 acres, clubhouse roads, neat little loops of lots. My parcel sat nearly half a mile beyond their edge. No shared easement, no water agreement, no extension of jurisdiction, nothing. Instead, the second letter called the lake a shared use community resource. The third hinted at non-compliance. Then one Thursday morning, Karen herself rolled up in a white SUV with another HOA staffer, both wearing polos and carrying clipboards like props. "We're here for a site observation," she said. "You're here for nothing," I told her. She smiled tighter, started talking about watershed connections, community benefit, environmental safety, long-standing understanding. She never once mentioned a deed because people like Karen know exactly when the facts stop helping them. They switch to tone, shared benefit, historical access, stewardship. It's amazing what control can look like once you dress it up. I let her talk, then I shut the gate and started a binder. Every letter went into a plastic sleeve. Every visit got logged with date, time, number of people, what they claimed to be doing, what authority they cited, which was always none. Trail camera stills, drone sightings, HOA maps from newsletters, side comments from neighbors, all of it went in. By the end of that month, Karen had repeated the lie often enough that people were starting to mistake it for truth. Then Pam showed up. Pam lived in Ridgewood, older woman, soft voice, never involved in the neighborhood theatrics. She came to my fence one evening with one of Karen's packets folded in her hand. "She's lying," she said, quiet as church. Pam told me Karen had been telling the board there was some long history of informal shared access, that my uncle had cooperated for years, that the HOA had practically helped steward the lake. Then Pam said the sentence that changed everything. "My husband was on the board in 2003. They specifically refused responsibility for your lake." She went home, dug through an old file drawer, and brought back a board memo from 2003. Certified copy, clear language, adjacent water features excluded from HOA maintenance and governance due to private ownership concerns. That was the twist. Karen wasn't confused. She was rewriting history on purpose. So I went back into the fireproof box and dug deeper than I had in years. Under the tax records, I found the document that turned my case from strong to crushing, a 1963 state surface water impoundment filing granting exclusive use rights to the lake, the outflow maintenance control, the whole system. Exclusive, not customary, not implied, exclusive. Victoria, the woman at the desk, ran the microfilm copy and adjusted her glasses while the machine hummed. Still active, she said. No superseding filing, no amendment, no overlay. Then she looked up at me. If somebody's claiming shared authority, they'd need a later instrument or a court order. That's when the fear left my body. Karen kept escalating anyway. A drone hovered over the spillway. A notice got taped to my gate announcing a maintenance review. Then came the big one, a formal-looking notice of non-compliance threatening fines of $75 a day for obstructing HOA water oversight. I sat at my kitchen table with that letter in one hand and cold coffee in the other and laughed so hard it echoed in the room. Not because it was funny, because it was insulting. I answered her once in writing. Provide the statutory basis, easement ordinance or charter clause, granting jurisdiction over parcel 731A, clean direct certified mail. She never answered. Instead, she invited me to a board meeting. Of course she did. Paper was beating her, so she moved the fight into a room. The Ridgewood Clubhouse was set up for optics folding chairs and Rose projector screen. Lowered board members lined up behind a long table, Karen in the middle looking like she'd mistaken herself for a county commissioner. Residents filled the seats with that restless energy people bring when they think they're about to watch drama, not documents. Karen opened with slides. Kids near the shoreline. People fishing. Cleanup days. Community memory. Shared landscape. Every picture framed to make private property feel petty and her overreach feel noble. Then she turned toward me with that same polished smile. Would you like to clarify your position? I stayed seated, opened my envelope, put the documents on the table one by one. The first is the 1963 exclusive impoundment filing, I said. Still active. You could hear chairs stop creaking. The second is the certified survey showing the entire lake sits within parcel 731A. Karen's smile slipped. The third is the county overlay showing no HOA jurisdiction over this parcel. A couple people shifted in the back. The fourth is my written request asking what legal authority this board has claimed. It was never answered. And then I laid down the last page. The fifth is a 2003 HOA memo excluding this lake from HOA maintenance and governance because private ownership created liability. That was the hit. Not because I yelled it, because I didn't. Pam was there 3 rows back, hands folded, staring straight at Karen. No one on the board produced a statute. No one challenged the filings. Karen cleared her throat and reached for one last lifeline. Community identity isn't always defined by paperwork. I looked at her and said jurisdiction is. That line landed like a hammer in a glass room. The meeting folded in on itself after that. No vote, no defense of the fines, no bold declarations, just embarrassed quiet and the sound of folding chairs scraping the floor. The next day, I submitted everything to the county civil enforcement desk, letters, maps, notices, drone logs. My unanswered requests, the surveys, the 1963 filing, the 2003 memo. Not as revenge, as a record. A few weeks later, the county answered in writing. Ridgewood HOA held no jurisdiction over the impounded water body on parcel 731A. No public or organizational access rights existed. Any attempt to regulate, fine, inspect, or assert authority without judicial order was administrative overreach. Then came the part that felt like warm sunlight after a long, cold month. The county assessed a civil fine against the HOA, $7,500. Formal reprimand entered into the organization's county record. Any further attempt to regulate my property would trigger enforcement. That was it. All Karen's polished words got translated into what they really were: unauthorized administrative action. The lake oversight page vanished from the HOA website. Old posts disappeared. The bulletin board at the clubhouse went blank where the shared use notices used to hang. Karen missed a couple meetings, then the minutes carried one dry little sentence: resigned, effective immediately. No apology, no confession, no last speech. Just absence. And honestly, that was better. The lake didn't look any different after all that. The spillway still hummed, the reeds still bent in the wind, evening lights still stretched gold across the water. But something in me had changed. I'd spent months realizing how often people confuse patience for weakness and how easily power grows when nobody demands proof. My uncle had been right. Paper remembers what people try real hard to forget. That's the part that stuck with me. The moral of the whole ugly circus wasn't that the good guy wins if he yells louder. It was that greed rarely walks in wearing a villain's face. Sometimes it shows up smiling, talking about community, asking everybody to ignore the record in favor of the vibe. And if you don't stop it early, it starts sounding normal. On the last evening of summer, I took my coffee down to the dock and didn't look at the road once. No headlights on the ridge, no drone overhead, no clipboards at the gate. Just water moving inside the boundaries it had always held, and the kind of quiet that doesn't feel nervous anymore. It feels earned. So I'll ask you this, when somebody in power knowingly blurs the line between community good and private control, is that just small-town bureaucracy being ridiculous? Or is it theft with better manners? And if you'd been in my boots, would you have stopped at the county ruling? Or gone after Karen personally, after the truth came out? Tell me where you land on it. Who was right? Who crossed the line? And if you've ever dealt with an HOA, a neighbor, or anybody who thought repeating a lie long enough made it real, I want to hear that story too.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.